Banshee season 4 episode 1, right? So last season I thought it was a pretty good season, but overall some of the things kind of felt a little bit flat to me, right? There was a big cliffhanger for the most part that a lot of people was kind of a little bit angry about Job kind of getting kidnapped. So now we're kind of back to season 4. So where does season 4 pick up? Right after season 3? No. Fast forward to 2 years later. Now, that thing is a little bit on and off for me personally, but I think it actually did a good enough job because fast forwarding the time period, especially in Lucas Hood's life, it actually showcased that this is kind of the end of his story, right? They kind of just fast forward most likely to the end because there's nothing really left for him just in general, right? So I thought that was actually a pretty good way they kind of handled the story just in general. So a lot of new things kind of happened in these past like 18 months, whatever it may be. For one, let's talk about just the town just in general, right? The town has pretty much got revamped. The police station has got, bulletproof glass or whatever it may be. So that's kind of good to see. Brock is now the sheriff of Banshee pretty much. So it was nice to see him kind of becoming the job that he always wanted since season 1, quite frankly. Now for me personally, him getting the job, you kind of see in this episode, I'm not going to spoil too much, but you kind of see in this episode that he's kind of bending the law a little bit. He's hitting people, he's kind of working behind the scenes a bit. Now regardless of which way you want to call it, I think Brock actually did learn a lot of things from Hood as being the sheriff for the most part. So I thought that was actually good to see that Brock realizes that sometimes you got to go outside of the law to actually, do the law, pretty much. So I thought that was actually good. Also, in this past 18 months, Kai Proctor is now the fucking mayor of Banshee. How? Because he apparently ran unopposed, right? Now, so him running unopposed and now being a mayor, I think because since Hood was pretty much his biggest rival, just in general, he's the only real person that could ever, stop him, I guess you could say. So him kind of not being there for the past, 18 months really kind of, made Proctor kind of be a bit unstoppable for the most part. And it was very interesting to see that he was mayor. And I did like they kind of did a subtle the mayor reveal. If you didn't know already, when Brock and Hood is talking, there's a picture of Brock and Kai Proctor shaking hands and I guess him getting a medal or whatever it may be. But I thought that was an interesting way kind of to showcase ahead of time that he would be the mayor. But I thought it was actually pretty good. Now for me personally, I did like Hood in this episode because you see that he's broken down, he's battered, he's bruised, right? He's got nothing left to live for. The flashbacks I thought was actually really good, showcasing that he almost wanted to kill himself. And Banshee has always been pretty good with showcasing these flashbacks just in general, right? Now the main thing that kind of happened in this episode was pretty much Rebecca, right? Rebecca was pretty much dead. Now, granted, I'm not a big fan of that they kind of killed her, but I am a fan of how they're actually handling this thing just in general, right? Showcasing kind of the flashbacks to add up to kind of the suspense and the mystery of it all adds more of a surprise element than just kind of showcasing her death on screen and being okay, well, we kind of can pick her who can actually be the killer or whatever. So there's a serial killer on the loose and somebody apparently kind of killed her. Or maybe they didn't. Who knows? Now, is it going to be Kai Proctor's enemies as they're kind of suspecting? I don't think it is because if you remember, she's trying to be her own woman, so to speak, and she was kind of, showcasing that she had some balls, and that probably rubbed people a little bit the wrong way, and that probably made her enemies, not Kai Proctor enemies. But it would be an interesting thing if it was a twist and Hood killed her. But that would just be stupid. But yeah, I thought it was actually a pretty good episode. Not too much, Carrie's, I think on a house arrest or whatever it may be. Her kids are away from her. Now, a lot of things didn't get too revealed from the past season. I did like the Sugar and Hood small conversation with each other, even though it didn't last very long. But I thought that was actually quite well. Now, just in general, I think this season is off to a pretty solid start. There wasn't really too much to talk about in this this episode, pretty much. But I thought it was actually pretty good. The white supremacist guy, when he's squinching the guy's head in, I thought it was going to just pop. And I was actually quite cringy. That was quite cringy to watch. But overall, that was actually a pretty good episode. And there was really nothing wrong with it except the fucking beard. The beard is the worst thing I've ever seen ever on screen. I mean, it looked borderline fake. And if you ever played Mad Max, the video game, Mad Max has a big old beard and long hair, and that's how it fucking looked. It looked disgusting, and even when he cut the hair, it just looked the worst. But this was a very dark episode for Banshee, and Banshee's never been a light tone show, but you can feel, especially for this episode, that everything is coming to an end, right? You see that all these storylines are kind of coming to an end because there's really nowhere left to go. So I'm glad they're kind of ending it here, just in general, because Banshee never really adds on a new storyline without ending a couple of storylines ahead of time. So yeah, it seems that we're off to a good start. And this should be a fun season for the most part, and Banshee term of fun. But yeah, comment, subscribe, like, help me get to 400 subscribers, help me out, signing out.